Hi folks, welcome to another edition of 12-Step Insights. My name is Emmanuel John. I'm a clinical therapist with over 35 years experience in the addiction field, and I want to share some insights in the 12 steps. This one today we're on the 12th. A little bit of business first. Up here you'll see a little website. That is where you can find my books and more information about me. Addiction, Why They Use. There's some things up here too, little pictures of the book. Addiction, Why They Use, a handbook for anyone that loves an alcoholic or addict, is for the family members. And Addiction, Am I Powerless, a self-assessment guide, is for the substance-involved individuals to determine if they have a problem or if they're really powerless, which is what the first step suggests. So the 12th step says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Okay, so there's a lot of different parts to this, and as usual, we'll break it down a little bit. The first part we'll talk about is principles. Bill believed that the 12 steps were 12 principles, the 12 traditions were 12 principles, and the 12 concepts of world service were 12 principles. He believed, and there's tapes where you can hear him say it, that there were 36 principles in the program. I don't really believe that he limited it to those 36, but they were the basic 36 that was the structure of Alcoholics Anonymous, or by extension other 12-step programs. So those things that we learned in the ways of behaving became principles that they tried to incorporate in their lives. And Bill thought that if you really wanted success in the program, that you would have to do the same thing. You would have to live the program, that the program was a way of life. It wasn't a process you went through once and then just cut it off. So it is a way of life, and here he's giving you the long-term goal, the long-term plan. As we suggested earlier, the grow-up steps, is to now learn to live this way. You learned all this, you cleaned all this stuff up, now let's see how you live. Go ahead and live your life to good purpose. I think it's in the literature several times, living a life of good purpose. Obviously, in this step, there's a suggestion that that good purpose would mean carrying the message. So let's break it down again a little bit more. Having had a spiritual awakening, there's a suggestion, a guarantee, and even a promise that if you work the steps the way they're written in the book, or outlined in the book, that you will have a spiritual awakening. I think you'll have it long before you get to the 12th. I think you have several of them usually during that process of house cleaning, restitution for harms done, self-appraisal, self-assessment. It's a spiritual journey. So he's guaranteeing us, basically saying that since you had this awakening, this spiritual experience, this spiritual awakening, now what? We try to carry this message, carry the message, means 12-step work, the message being the message of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous of the 12 steps. We did this and we got sober and we got happy. We did this and we found out that we lost the cravings. We prayed for God. We prayed for God to remove our sins, to remove our defects, to remove our cravings, and it worked. This is what we did and this is what happened. And look at us now. They were living examples of the program to each person they 12-step. What is a 12-step? A 12-step is a pretty broad concept or idea. I knew a man named Ray Roberts who had sponsored, he said, over 100 people over the years. And he had a couple of them even commit suicide. One actually blew his head off while he was on the phone with him. And Ray used to always talk about how his 12 steps were successful, that every one of them was a success. Not everybody stayed sober. Some people even died. But every 12-step that he did was a success because it was his 12-step. That he did the 12-step work that he did not to save souls, not to save lives, but to save himself. That's why Bill did it originally, was to save himself. So a 12-step call is, did it help you with your sobriety? If it didn't, well then maybe it wasn't. If you go on a 12-step call and you're unmanned or undermanned and you don't take somebody else with you and you end up relapsing with the person, then that probably wasn't a successful 12-step call. But if you stay sober, it's your 12-step, you did it right. I think it's important that it says tried. And we try, we do the best that we can, and we go on. And that's what keeps people clean, sane, sober, serene, whatever you want to call it, whatever your reason for working, skinny, not gambling, whatever, out of debt. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about the 12-step, and you'll hear people read it who will say, a result of these steps. And then somebody corrects them and says, no, it's the result of these steps. Okay? Bill wasn't perfect. I think Bill might have dropped the ball in his English language on a simple word like a and the. If you've worked the steps, you know that you've had more than a spiritual awakening. And you'll know that more than one thing happened. Dozens of things happen. Our lives change, whether it's Al-Anon, AA, Nar-Anon, NA, OA, DA, does not matter. If you do these steps, it changes your life. It changes who you are. It changes how you feel and how you react to the world around you. And if you're doing that, you'll have dozens of spiritual experiences. But he says, having had a spiritual awakening, what's the difference between awakening and experience? I've broken it down like this in my own thinking for many years. A spiritual awakening is what I have inside when I get an epiphany about something that I say, oh, that's why I did that. I probably don't want to really do that anymore. I've changed. Okay, those are awakenings. I believe a spiritual experience is when you watch other people have a spiritual awakening. So he talks about awakening, but I think that you can also, some of those other spiritual experiences that we have, spiritual awakenings that we have, are while watching other people have this spiritual experience. I hope that makes sense. Awakening is what I have, and experience is watching it happen in someone else or for someone else. That's spiritual. The day you realize that you're more excited about your friend's anniversary than your own is a bit of a spiritual awakening and can be a spiritual experience as well. An interesting aside, the step originally read, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. It didn't say other alcoholics. I think Bill wanted to focus it in later, and I think he thought we were undermanned and that we wouldn't have enough when he wrote the book. They talked about staying anonymous because they didn't have enough people to sort of do all the work that might be asked of them once their book got famous. So he sort of, they wanted to tone it down a little bit, say we can't save the world. Our job is to focus on the alcoholic. And so they changed that. Al-Anon step still reads the original way to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. I think there's a great message to be carried to others about it. Sometimes it's as simple as changing who we are and behaving different so that the other people around us see it. Long-time members of Al-Anon will tell you that just by getting their own side of the street cleaned up, by getting their own little house in order, that the people around them that are alcoholics or addicts noticed such a change in them that they became interested in the 12 steps. That may be one of the greatest ways to carry the message of the 12 steps that there is. If you use a lot and you have a gang of people, a group of people that you hang out with, and then you're all a mess, and then they see you get your stuff together and see you doing better, maybe even see you get a car, see you have some money in your pocket, you get that sparkle back in your eye, and they see you walking down the street or they see you out in a bar, and they go, hey man, how you doing? And they look at you like, wow, so what have you been up to? Like, what have you been up to? You know, nothing, man, I got clean and I got sober, and they go, oh wow, you know, maybe they're a little scared of you at first, but they see it. That's carrying the message as well. That's an example of the power of example of the power that some people talk about. Seeing, that's believing, right? So carrying this message to others can occur in a lot of different ways. What is the message? Maybe that I'm clean and sober. That's carrying the message. That I work a program, or I got in a program, or I went to treatment even, because that's a message that treatment works. The 12-step, most of all, guarantees a spiritual awakening. You know, I've read a lot of books. You can see behind me, there's a bunch of books back there. There really aren't any other guarantees other than program literature that tell you that you're going to have a spiritual awakening. The Bible doesn't say if you read this book you're going to have a spiritual awakening. I think it kind of suggests you'll be saved, but it really isn't even doing that. It's just giving you the book to read. Taoism, Buddhism, there's a lot of other stuff up there. Really none of them are promising. They're telling you what you should do and how you should act. But they don't really say, if you do this, this is going to happen. Like the 12 guarantees of the Bible or the 10 commandment promises. They don't have those. So it's very interesting. And I'm one of those people who believe it, having been in treatment and worked around the field for a very long time. I'm one of those people who believe that as Bill was asked on his deathbed if there was anything that he would have changed in all the literature and all the steps, what would it be? And he was talking about how it works, where the steps are. And he said, I would change. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path, to never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. I've seen these spiritual awakenings. I've seen these changes. I've been around treatment and the fellowships for 36 years. So I know that they work. I've seen them over and over again. I've seen it work more than once for some people. Unfortunately, they had to come back and do it again. But it still worked again. And Bill was suggesting that if we do it 10, 11, and 12, those grow up steps, those how do we live life steps, what some people call it maintenance steps, that we can be happy and successful. This step suggests you'll have a spiritual awakening if you incorporate this way of living into your life and you carry this message to others. So that's just some more information on the 12 steps. I hope you found this helpful. I'm going to be doing some other videos on some specific topics, acceptance, surrender, things like that, humility, coming up after this. So please subscribe down here in this corner if you're on YouTube. You can subscribe. If you're not, you probably click on this video and you'll be taken to YouTube and you can click subscribe then. Please like and share. Again, my name is Emmanuel John. You can find more information about me and my books at addictioninthefamily.com. And I hope this is helpful to you. I hope it was helpful to you. And I hope you pass some of what you got here on to some other people. And if nothing else, that it just made you think. So good luck with your recovery efforts. Keep at it. Don't stop. Incorporate it into your life. And miracles will happen. Thanks. Bye.